We've discussed how hiring has changed, what trends we need to be mindful of, and where we can look to find future staff members. Today, we dig deeper into the process, sharing favorite interview techniques, questions, and what to do immediately once they're hired so that we keep them. Remember what sparked your passion for camp? UltraCamp knows it's about the people, not the paperwork. That's why they built a platform to simplify your camp management. Learn more at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. Camp leaders, win back your time to what matters most, your campers. Bolin's comprehensive accounting, back office solutions, and tech-enabled team free up your staff to focus on your mission. Visit bolinhq.com, that's BOWLINEHQ.com, to learn more and book a free 2-hour financial diagnostic. Welcome to Camp Code, a podcast brought to you by GoCamp Pro. For us in the world of summer camp, there's nothing more important than well-researched, well-planned, well-thought-out, and well-prepared leadership training. It's at the crux of all that we do. It's how we deliver a safe, exciting, supportive, growth-filled experience for our campers and their families. It's how we have staff return year after year. It's how we make the biggest impact on the world around us. Join us as we delve into the world of staff training, the good, the hard, and everything in between. Welcome to part 2 of the hiring process. And once again, we are joined today by some very familiar faces. Ruby is back with us for this episode and the last one. And we're also graced by the fabulous Kim Aycock. We're going to continue our chat on best practices for hiring. But as always, before we get started, we'll introduce ourselves. So Gab, could we start with you, please?
Absolutely. My name is Gabrielle Rail. My pronouns are she, her, elle, and I'm one of the camp directors at Camp Waro. Camp Waro is an all-girls camp in the Laurentian Mountains, and we focus on creating a positive environment for gender minorities.
Thanks, Gab. Kim.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Aycock, and I'm coming to you from the coast of North Carolina, across the state from Ruby, my dear friend. And I like to say I'm the CCO, the Chief Culture Officer of Kimspiration. That's the LLC name, because I love developing young people with the skills that robots can't do, and a little bit of all things camp consulting.
Perfect. Thank you. And Ruby, welcome back.
Thanks. I'm Ruby Compton. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Chief Exploration Officer for Ruby Outdoors, which is a training and support company for camps and outdoor programs based in Western North Carolina in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Thank you. And I'm Beth Allison. I am co-owner of Camp Hacker and GoCamp Pro and a former camp director and executive director. My pronouns are she, her, and I love to talk about staff training. So we're going to do that right now. So the hiring process is a long and can be very tedious one. So what are some techniques or processes that you've used over the years, or maybe heard from other camp directors that have been really successful? So Ruby, can we start with you, please? What techniques or processes have you used that have really worked for you in staff hiring?
I have one quick one, which is very personal asks. I work for an outdoor ed program that we hire on a kind of a contract basis. So you can work 1 week, but not that. And you could work only one program or you could work 8 weeks. And sometimes we have had some of our best staff come through by quite literally not just sending the, hey, everybody, do you know anybody? But saying, Gabrielle, do you know anyone who might be great at camp or at this job? We need 2 more staff. Do you know anyone who might fit that bill? And we try to make sure we ask that question also of any new staff that come through our pipeline too. But making a very directed personal ask, not a broad ask. The other thing that I would encourage you to think about in your interviewing and hiring process is teaching folks something during the process, teaching folks how to apply for jobs, or not just teaching about what you do, but think about how you're describing your job at camp. And are you describing it as like these are the bullet points, or are you thinking about it like I am beginning my staff training by teaching them this is what happens at camp. This is what a day looks like. Um, Even if somebody doesn't end up working for you, they're going to have good, warm feelings if it was beneficial to engage with your website or to start in the training process or the interview or hiring process with you in a way that they might be more likely to refer you to other folks down the line. So, or refer other folks to you. So, think about it like YouTube videos, right? We have something like 8 seconds to capture someone's attention and then they're going to move on. So within the first 8 seconds that somebody is thinking, 8 to 10 to 30 seconds that somebody's thinking about, "Oh, I wonder what it's like to work there," teach them something. And you might find people stick around longer or are directing more people your way.
Excellent way to start that off. Thank you. Kim, what about you? Any favorites that you've got or have heard about or have worked well for you?
Yeah, actually, Ruby, your initial idea thought made me think about. So the college that I graduated from, undergraduate, a couple years ago, sent out an email around the holidays, and this was in December, and it really did that ask of like, um, laying out very clearly, like, you're going to have your young people home with you for the holidays. They're going to be with their friends and with their, neighbors that maybe you haven't seen for a while or whatever. And those are the people we'd love for you to, tell them about this particular, college or whatever. But I was like, oh my gosh, we can do that for camp, like, because all these people are home, all these college age, not necessarily going to college, but college age students who are home, and helping them connect the dots about who specifically can we be asking, not just like again throwing that broad net, but like, have you thought about the people you go to church with? Have you thought about the people that you are neighbors with, the people that you work with? All just going down all the different things to help them get those ideas in their head. And then giving them some talking points. That was the other thing about this email, was they gave some really good talking points. So I wrote a blog about, don't try to describe a Kiss concert if you've never seen it. Ruby, you'll appreciate the Jimmy Buffett quote, because you and I both like Jimmy Buffett. And so if you've never tried to explain something that, to people who've never been there, you have to think about, well, how you're going to explain it, right? Because the people that you're explaining to may not get it. And so anyway, it was a fun little thing. But I would say another thing that I've said this over and over and over again, and I'm going to say it again and again, probably ad nauseum. But one of the things that I've seen is that people are still stuck on having prospective staff, fill out the full application before they to get them into the system, right? To kick them into the hopper, so to speak. And so, do you really need their driver's license number? Do you really need their t-shirt size? Do you really need all these things? And so that's a barrier in my opinion, is like how we're people, and it's a time burglar is what it is also. And so people will the pushback that I get on that is, yeah, but if they can't spend the time to fill out the full application, then I don't want them working at camp. And I'm like, yeah, and don't know if they don't know enough about camp yet to commit at that time. So why don't we just there's a camp in North Carolina that does the 30-second application. And it's just that's how they advertise it on their website. It is a quick, name, just get the basic information on that form, and that kicks in the process. So then you can then reach back out to them to start the conversation. And then once you get further in, then have them do all the stuff that you need to have the formal application. So I can't stress that enough in terms of like making things. You'll have so many more applicants who can keep moving through, because a lot of people will tell me, like, Kim, I've got all these people sitting in my CRM and they're just sitting there and they're not doing anything. I'm like, yeah, because your application at this point is too long. So
Yep. I'm
Brilliant.
I'm embarrassed to say, Kim, but last year was we we just adjusted last year our for first time applicants to the 30-second application, and it really did make a difference. And truth be told, I actually hadn't really looked at our application for returning staff in it maybe in a couple of years just because of sort of status quo, just to get them into the door. And I think what happened was over the years we kept tweaking it, and it actually started to make it bigger and bigger. And last year, when we looked at it, we did have a couple pending, and I was like, "Why?" And I looked at it, and I was like, "I would never fill this out. Absolutely not." And I hated it. Like, I was irritated with my own company. And so we adjusted it, and it just made such a big difference.
Gav, you want to continue with your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just go with, lead with your mission, be transparent about being transparent. I think it's a selling point, truthfully. Like, this is who we are. This is what we aim to do. It is hard work to do it. Here are all the things that are really tough about our organization. There's lots of bugs. The internet is questionable. The time off is weird. We do care about our staff, but it is, these are the hours. And being transparent about being transparent and saying, "Hey, we're not here to convince you. We're here to give you all the information that you need to make an educated decision on what's best for you this summer." Because we also care about, we want your summer to be fruitful, and we want to make sure that it's exciting for you. So we're not here to sell our camp to you. We're just here to provide you as transparently as possible. So definitely for new to your camp, potential staff members, I think it's a selling point when you're just being transparent and honest and they can feel it. And when you empower your staff members to also be real like that, I think that are talking to their friends, they're also self-selecting. They're saying, yeah, that's not for them. Or actually, I think you would really like it. So mission first and being transparent about being transparent has been something that I feel it has been quite successful for us.
Thank you. Some good things to get started on this conversation. We're just going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. A special offer from UltraCamp for Camp Code listeners. Get ready for next season's staff recruiting with the Camp Experience Wheel, a powerful tool to prevent burnout, boost retention, and make sure your staff feels supported. Download it for free at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. Managing your camp shouldn't be a trade-off between quality and cost. With UltraCamp, you get powerful, user-friendly tools that are designed to fit your camp's budget. No compromises necessary. UltraCamp offers clear and flexible options with simple pricing you can trust. Low minimum entry, clear pricing with no hidden fees, flexible payment terms, and no long-term contracts. Get back to what you love. UltraCamp helps you spend less time on admin tasks and more time creating unforgettable camp experiences. Ready to see if UltraCamp is the perfect fit? Schedule your free personalized demo at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. Camp leaders, do you often find yourself bogged down with bookkeeping, accounting, and other back office tasks, taking precious time away from what matters most, your campers? Imagine a solution that frees up your staff to focus on creating impactful and memorable experiences for your campers. That's where Bolin comes in. Bolin offers comprehensive accounting back office solutions designed specifically for camps. Our tech-enabled team handles everything from payroll and bookkeeping to financial reporting, compliance, expense management, spend control, and more, allowing your staff to passionately pursue your number one purpose. With Bolin, you can streamline your camp's financial operations, reduce stress, and ensure your team is free to make a lasting impact in campers' lives. It's time to win back your time and work with a financial partner that truly understands camps. Whether you're a for-profit, not-for-profit, overnight, or day camp, Bolin has a solution for you. Visit bolinhq.com, that's BOWLINEHQ.com, to learn more and book a free 2-hour financial diagnostic. The report is yours whether you sign up or not. Let Bolin take care of your accounting needs so you can focus on what truly matters, your campers. All righty, we are ready to dive back in. So my next question for you three brilliant women is, what are some of your favorite interview questions, either on the application form or during a formal interview conversation? The ones that maybe give you the most insight into a person's skill level and commitment and help you know if it's a good fit for both of you. So Kim, can we start with you? What are some interesting questions you've heard over the years?
So this is actually one that I've helped, excuse me, camps put on their short application form, the interest form that I really, really like. And it gets at, without using the word values, it doesn't ask specifically like what are your, 3 values, core values, that kind of thing. But it asks like what are 3 words that describe you no matter who you're with, where you are, or what you're doing? And that's it. And then we come back to that question in the interview, should we get to that point, and I'll ask, I'll talk to them about it. I'll say, so we'll talk about our camp values, but then I'll say, so in a roundabout way, we asked you about what your values, what's important to you, who you are, no matter what. And these are the 3 words that you used. So I would love to know, like, if I was a fly on the wall, kind of following you around for the day and you didn't know I was there, how would I know that you are respectful? What would that look like? What would that sound like? What would I see? Or how would I know that you are, a caring person, or that you're adventurous, or whatever 3 words that they use? And I found that those questions have just been some of the best, really giving you an idea into who they are. And then also another one that I really, really like is, a couple years ago, we had not so great summer, I'll be honest. And so one of the questions I asked on the staff evaluation at the end of the summer is, what 3 qualities, if you were to hire all the staff for next summer, what 3 qualities would you be looking for? And then I made a word cloud out of it, and forced words that were sort of similar, like responsible and responsibility. I forced those to be the same word to get the different dimensions of the sizes of words. And then I show that on the screen during an interview. And I said, this is what people who've worked at camp before have said that is most important about what you need, qualities that you need. Which one of these resonates with you? Which one of these is like easy for you to do? Like you would have no trouble, like this is just who you are. You do this all the time. Or which one of these would maybe be a little bit of a stretch for you, or you would find a little bit more challenging to do? And some of the words I said, you can pick whichever word you want, the really big ones or the really, really small ones, And so just give them time to look at it and to reflect on it, and then we have a great conversation. So those would be my 2.
And
I love
everyone's
it
going to
so
start
much.
connecting with Kim Aycock to do all of their hiring and sub obligations.
Honestly,
Because
yeah.
those are brilliant, brilliant questions. All right, Gab, what about you?
For me, I'm gonna go towards returning staff members. So our format is typically we have a video component, and then we have an in-person or a Zoom component. And in the in-person Zoom component, they can choose what questions they would like to be asked or discussed, a little bit of agency, and we typically have a theme, and the theme is sort of linked to what Kim is talking about when we're doing checkouts with staff members. We do sort of an in hindsight, what's something that you would hope for with the experience that you had this summer for the team for next summer. So one of the themes that came out was courage. So what a lot of our staff members were talking about was that there was this element of resistance or hesitancy to sometimes, do an intervention with a camper. They're looking to their co-counselors to see, should I do it? Should you do it? Or just taking sort of these healthy risks. And I think there's a lot to do with COVID because of that, or there's a lot of reasons behind it. But taking those chances, and we know that courage is contagious. So you know that when people start doing it, other people will. So this is sort of the theme. And so we look at our trifecta, which is typically camp, self, and others. And these are the 3 topics that we try to aim with. So one of the questions that we have is, with feedback that you received from last summer from either peer or supervisor, how did you receive that feedback? And were you able to implement it this year? Yes yes or no, and how come? And it's a way of just reconnecting to feedback. Some of our staff members are still having a hard time receiving feedback, but they all want the feedback, but they're still processing it. So this is one of the questions that we have, but we also have things like, we don't know why, but sometimes campers are scary and they're younger than us and sometimes they're even smaller than us. How come sometimes they're intimidating to, start a conversation at a meal, or, can you tell us about a time where you wished you could have taken more initiative with campers? What do you think stopped you? If you could wave a magic wand, what superpower could you have? So I'm really loving these sort of pre-video questions that we have for them, and then also the ones that they get to choose. And for us, using our staff members from the year before is really, really powerful in setting the theme for next year. And we always have a similar structure. Like I said, Camp Self and others are always our frameworks of different questions that we have, but the theme really guides what questions we develop.
Love it. Even more brilliance. Look at us go. All right, Ruby, what are you going to add to these brilliant ladies' thoughts?
Two questions.
Here we go.
Number one, I would do this in an interview, but you could put it on an application. I love the quick application because how many forms have I been like, I'm not filling this out in one essays. Just give me multiple choice. Okay, question number one. What do you think you can gain from camp? Or what do you think you can gain from working at camp? And I can ask this to return staff by adding two more words, which is, what do you think you can gain from working at camp this year? All right, easy. I don't feel like I need to elaborate a whole lot on like what are we looking for, but I love that. It helps me get an idea of where their head's at, and is that in alignment with what we need. And then my other question, this was asked on a camp application, and we got it as returners and as new folks. So thinking about some time in your life, can you share about a time you'd like to do over? And
love
I
do-overs.
really loved that, because you can acknowledge like, I made this mistake at camp one time, or there was this thing that happened I did not love, or it can be anywhere. We all had those moments. And it gives them the opportunity to get some insight on their self-awareness as well. So those are my two.
Love it. Thank you. Okay, next question. We know that hiring and having staff accept positions is really only half the battle. More and more directors are dealing with being ghosted by staff after they've agreed to work at camp for the summer. So, how do we best ensure that the people we hire show up for the first day of training? Kim, let's start with you, please.
I was like writing down things from the last lesson. But I'm ready now. I'm ready.
Okay.
So I have a couple things. One goes back to the interview, actually, and I learned this from a good camp friend of mine who really made me aware of something, and that is the whole idea of like being visual during an interview. And so like when I pull up the word cloud, for example, like that's a way to be, to show visual. And it's also a way to sort of break up the Zoom call, but also like when the point where you're really trying to help them understand about the job, that is, I pull up the schedule, the daily schedule, because every camp has that on their website. However, that's usually the camper daily schedule. So I tell them like, this is what our sort of framework for the daily schedule is. This is how camp runs. This is the bell system. You're going to hear bells at every one of these marks. And this is what it looks like for you. So they get an idea of what they're doing in, as part of the job. So it becomes a little bit more real to them. Also, showing them the map of camp, just like where things are laid out. And I, on the camp map the camps that I'm specifically referring to in Wisconsin, like the map looks like it's all flat. And I said, well, actually, this isn't true. I said, because I call it an upstairs and a downstairs. Like all the land activities are upstairs, all the cabins and that is upstairs, but all the water activities is downstairs. Like you're going to go down this hill and you have two different ways to get down there. And, so really kind of giving them a little bit of an idea of the layout. And then I also, for the folks who are coming long distance, I do a Google map of like, this is where you are, this is where we are. And so they have a sense of where in the world they're going. And it's really eye-opening to some of them. They're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I was going so far. And for some, that can be a deal breaker, but it's better to know now than it is to know later. So I would say incorporating those. I have a friend, and that same actually this is the same friend. She just told me in a conversation we had last week. She started doing a third interview. So the first interview is really short, just kind of, hey, this is who we are. These are some things I want you to know. Like this is what you're buying into. The limited use of cell phones, time off, all those kinds of things. If you're ready to keep going, if you're okay with that, then we'll schedule another interview. But she said one of the things that she did last year was this past season is she started doing a third interview, and it's coming back like a month, 6 weeks after they've had the first one. Just want to check in. And she said she pulled back on two of her offers that she had made because the person was totally different in that last conversation, the third
Oh,
conversation, and she
interesting.
uncovered the fact that, and if the applicant came clean and said, "Yeah, my mom filled out all of the application stuff," and so, and so she said, "Well, I'm not hiring your mom. I'm going to hire you, but you're not hired." But it was just a really, and also you can get a sense if people are, how committed are they, how as we get closer to camp, and find out what questions they might have or things that you can, miss that you can dispel about camp.
Mhm.
Also when they're weighing their options, and so how to keep camp as a really viable option for them. Um, and then the last one, and this is a very brilliant friend of mine who happens to serve on the Project Real Job team with me, Kendra Perkins. She created for her camp. She was at one camp. She's now at Camp Say, and she developed a couch to camp program, thinking about like sort of the trickle effect or the drip effect of like different things that you would want staff to know about, as you're getting ready to the summer, just like you're preparing to run a 5K or a 10K or a marathon or whatever. You've got training plans. Well, she created that training plan, and she created like the group. I think she used Slack at the time or some other group messaging system, and introduced the idea. And then every week they got something new about camp, and it was things like hydrating, because her camp, uh, uh, when she came up with this program, was at high elevation, and like hydrating was huge, for staying healthy, right? And so they practiced like drinking water and all of those kinds of things. So so many good things, but we have to take the time to do it. So, but it's time well spent and
Mhm.
time worth the effort for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kim. Ruby, what about you? How are you going to stop staff from ghosting you?
Yeah, my one suggestion here is to straight up ask them. But not in an interview like, okay, you've offered the job, and maybe they've even accepted. So that's where we are with the applicant. I love that idea of kind of the third interview later, but whether it's on a Google form or an email or just a phone conversation, hey, I just wanted to touch base. For about a month out from camp starting. Um, are there, like, can you tell me a little bit about what options you might be weighing as far as whether you're going to, and I'm not going to count it against you. Just know that it takes 3 weeks to get through the process of like interviewing and doing applications and whatever. So, I would just love to know, like, is there an internship you're waiting on? Is there summer classes that you might end up having to take? Like, where does camp fall on the priority list? I used to ask that to my return staff as part of their return staff interview because I already had a relationship with them. You don't want to make hiring decisions based on that in the United States because then there can be discrimination. But once they're hired, once you put an offer on the table, I think it's really reasonable to ask, hey, where do we fall in your priorities? And if it's not number one, I'm not going to rescind my offer. It just helps me be transparent and helps you be transparent and know where we both are.
Love that. Gav, how about you?
I would say, Ruby, we do that, and we do that in our third interview. Our first interview is a get to know, like you get to know camp, we get to know you. The second interview, they have to come prepared with questions about us. So it's very, very telling. And then the third interview, we go over their contract, even though obviously we've gone over it, but we do the check boxes with them, and we do ask that question. And we're very clear, is there anything that could come up that might say, hey, I would rather do that instead? Is there, and that has really saved us a lot of headaches. The last thing I would say is that we host something called a spring series. So our spring series is basically paid training before staff members come to Waro, and there's many benefits from it, but there's two main ones. One is that they really see other staff members be present. Two, it's kind of like putting money into the slot machine. You're kind of like, I've put some already time here. I'm committing to this. Maybe there's a third column, but oh, they're actually the talk that they announce, they're actually walking it. So it's really a place to showcase what we believe in and what we've been talking to our new staff members about, and it's realigning our returning staff members. So this year, our spring series, in previous years, we've had guest speakers. This year, we had our first group was alumni from Waro, and our second group was parents. And the goal was, with our alumni, is how camp impacts you in a positive way professionally. So each alumni talked about, of course, we picked people that had quite impressive jobs, but how camp was beneficial to them in their job right now. And the second one was parents that talked about how their kids were benefited from going to camp and the differences that they saw. So we're building a buy-in. And what we did was basically it's an hour-long session followed by an hour-long group discussion. And the group discussion, we break out into groups, and we talk about what we picked up on, blah, 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 blah. But then you're saying, well, what about the staff members that can't join? Well, the staff members that can't join, it's recorded, and there is another group discussion. So you still connecting with people. And if you can't meet with those group discussion times, then there's an essay format that they can fill out, or they can actually just answer by video. But what I've received from new staff members, who are the ones that I think we're most worried about that are going to be no shows, is that the feedback was that this told them who we were, and it made them excited about coming to camp. And of course, we do like packing parties and like that kind of stuff on Zoom and all those wonderful things. But I think this showcased, to our new staff members, we care, and this is what we're trying to provide for you for this summer. And we've been doing it for 3 years, and we did it because of the anxiety of no shows or staff members peeling out, 48 hours in. So this was something that we've done. I think we're going to continue doing it, and it's paid. It is paid, but that's important too.
Great. Thanks, Kim. So I think what everybody's saying is just to stay connected and continue to build those connections with people, and you can't ghost them from February to May and expect that they will show up. That you have to stay connected to them and build those relationships. All right, Gab, it's time. It's recap time. Here we go.
Recap. I'm so excited. Okay, so hey team, before people even arrive or before people even apply, do a couple of things. Maybe change your application. I love the idea of a 30-second application. Let's aim for that. Make sure that we're giving an opportunity to teach people something new, and lead with your mission, but be transparent about being transparent. Staff members will trust you more if you're letting them know that what you're saying is for their own benefit. We're going to use the trifecta here, the Camp Waro trifecta: self, others, and camp. And we're going to look at some of the questions that we can use. So starting with self, 3 things about you that is true, everybody. I love that. And I was trying to think of my 3 things about myself. I haven't gotten there yet. If you had a do-over, especially for returning staff members, I love that, because you know what, when you get into a little interview process, and it's the elephant in the room, right? So just letting that person say like, hey, if I had a chance to do things over, I would do this over. I think it's such a wonderful learning opportunity. Ask them about feedback as well. Hey, something that you received as feedback from last summer, how did you take it? If you want to implement it, how would you do that, et cetera, et cetera. Let's move over to others. Three qualities in others you would expect to be on your team. That's keeping everybody accountable. And I love the word document that Kim came up with. And if we move over to camp, what do you think you can gain from camp? Oh, I love that as well. And guess what? You really use that for marketing. I really think that's something that you can use as marketing to hire staff members and even promote to your families. This is such a wonderful topic, and I'm just so grateful that Kim and Ruby were here to help us out with this today. Thank you so much.
Me too, Gab. Thank you. And here's how you can get involved. You can let us know any great leadership training tips that you have to share, any guests you recommend that we have on the show, or topics you would like us to discuss. We would love to hear from you. And if you found our podcast to be useful, we'd love it if you left us a rating and review in your podcasting app. So here is how you can get in touch with each one of us individually. Kim, where can they find you?
I am at Kim Aycock, AYCOCK.com, or Instagram, Kim_Aycock_. And that's where you find all of the Kimspiration.
Perfect. Thank you. And Ruby, where do they find you?
You can email me, ruby@rubyoutdoors.com, or check out my website at rubyoutdoors.com.
Thank you. Gabrielle?
And you can get in touch with me at info@waro.com. And you can check out where I work at waro.com, OUAREAU.com.
The Vowel Camp. And
Yes.
you can check me out at GoCamp.pro or email me directly, Beth@GoCamp.pro. And for our next podcast, Gab and I are going to be discussing how to set clear expectations. So creating a culture of accountability, which begins before you hire. So our final segment on each podcast is a best practice for leadership training. And again, we'd love to hear from you, any that you would like us to share. But this week's best practice comes to us from Kim.
Okay, I might be doing sort of more than one best practice, but I'll make them really short. Number one, going back to the interview question, I forgot to say this. No hypothetical questions. Hypothetical questions give you hypothetical answers. And Ruby, the showing the what are you going to gain from working at camp, or what are you going to gain from camp working this year? I think just really knowing what your staff or like what they're hoping to gain and what growth that they want to have, whether it's personal growth, professional growth, really speaks a lot about how much we care for them. And then if we circle back to that and help them with those goals that they have for themselves personally or professionally, those would be my two. I'll leave my other one for Kimspiration.
Right. So everyone has to go check that out because it's Monday and that's when they come out.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Camp Code is part of the GoCamp Pro podcast network, and you can check out all our other podcasts at gocamp.pro/podcasts. So thank you again for joining us, and an extra special thanks to Kim and Ruby for joining us today and making it such a great discussion. It's wonderful to be together again. Thanks so much for the listening, friends.